As the country's chief diplomat under President George W. Bush, the 43rd President of the United States, Condoleezza Rice was at the center of the administration's most crucial decisions regarding our national security and the United States' stature in the world. So what does she have to say now, looking back at her years in office? I recently sat down with her, in fact, it was late last week, to talk to her about America today with the former Secretary of State.
Madam Secretary, there's a sense, though, when this president took over, that America was too arrogant in the world, trying to assert ourselves in too many places. And if we changed that caricature, things would change. Number one, has it changed?
Well, what we're seeing is that when the United States steps back and speaks softly, nobody listens. Americans also don't like the world that they get when the United States is not deeply engaged and deeply involved, a world of beheadings, a world of lone wolves walking into the Canadian Parliament, a world of Vladimir Putin annexing his neighbors. And so I think the American people are ready. I think the world is ready for stronger American leadership.
But a lot of people say, hey, you know what? The Bush administration opened up that cauldron with Iraq and Afghanistan. What's your response?
The truth of the matter is, because President Bush made the brave decision to surge forces at the end of his term, we were in pretty good shape in Iraq. Iraq was relatively stable in 2010 and 2011. I wish we'd left a residual force. We're now going to be back in Iraq to try and help the Iraqis deal with the threat of the Islamic State.
And the president's own words in 2007, which I had a chance to play for him about 3 weeks ago, said if we don't do this, they're going to come back, the Islamic extremists, worse and bigger than ever. And in fact, they have. But the pushback from Democrats and from the Obama administration was, hey, this is the status of forces agreement I was handed. I was just abided by it. What's the truth?
I was in those rooms when we discussed the status of forces agreement that we would sign. It was a sign that the Iraqis were gaining sovereignty, but everybody expected that we would negotiate a follow-on status of forces agreement, that the Iraqis would allow us to keep, or would want to keep, a small number of American forces. I think the American military thought that number ought to be around 10,000. Now, just imagine if we kept those forces there, we probably would have been able to train the Iraqis better in counterterrorism. We certainly would have had better eyes and ears on the ground to see the rise of ISIS. I do believe we can turn this around. You do? Yes, I do.
How would you do that?
Well, we can turn it around through a combination of air power, but sustained significant air power against the ISIS installations. We also need to really train and equip and help the Iraqi forces, the Iraqi national forces, the Kurdish Peshmerga, and these tribes that we've worked with before. But Brian, that's going to mean that we're probably going to have to put advisors with them.
The Atlantic probably gives you a free subscription because they want Condoleezza Rice subscribing to it. One of the articles from Jeffrey Goldberg referred to an Obama administration official as calling Bibi Netanyahu a chicken blank, going on to say that because he listened to us and didn't bomb Iran, he doesn't have the courage to really start a war. How troublesome is that to you?
Well, you should never talk about a lie in that fashion.
Have you ever?
Never. Prime Minister Netanyahu is the elected Prime Minister of Israel. He is a friend, and he lives in a really bad neighborhood. You have to remember that Israel is a democracy. Israel's our friend. Their security is paramount to our future.
Looking back now, as our people like to rank the presidents like they do college football teams, do you think President Bush's ranking is going up or down?
I definitely think that people are beginning to understand better the hard choices that President George W. Bush faced, unprecedented choices after September 11th, when we were attacked on our home soil for the first time since the War of 1812. Unprecedented choices about how to secure the country. And I think people are coming to appreciate that he made those tough choices, that he stood strong, that he kept the country safe. And people knew that he had the best interest at heart. As he used to say, people are still evaluating George Washington. So
right.
I think history will judge.
Good point. That was very nice of her to come in and know she had a lot of stops. Also, you can see the whole interview. We talked for a half hour straight on foxandfriends.com. Also have excerpts on radio a little bit later. Special thanks to Georgia, her chief assistant, for setting that up. And for Joanne Benedetto for doing a great job with the edit.
Yeah, the former Secretary of State, such an impressive individual and so warm and gracious in person as well.
What a resume.